Alright, welcome to the Unus Imperium tournament, where our players are picking a civ, and that's all they play, all tournament. Each player has to pick a different civ to everyone else in the tournament as well. So we've got our Poles player in Lobo up against Oso as the Byzantine player. So both these guys from Combi Clan, they'll both be South American players. I know Lobo's Mexican. I'm not so sure about Oso. I think he might be Mexican or Argentinian. Probably Mexican. Pretty sure Combi's a Mexican clan. So I've actually covered some games, not between them, but of both of them before. But yeah, it's cool seeing them in action again. Some of our solid high-end South American contenders. We've got the Polish player here in the pink. Poles in pink. Sounds a bit dirty, doesn't it? So villagers regen health, however useful that may be. But you've also got forewalks, improved mills. Your stone miners do generate a trickle of gold while mining stone. I'm not so sure how powerful that actually is. You've got cheaper knights in the late game as well, and stronger cavalry versus archers, so they're even stronger in what would normally be considered, you know, what they should counter, but I think I and other people have probably rambled on about this. DE archers are a lot easier to micro than the archers of HD and of original AoE 2, and they can even take quite favourable trades against what should be their counters in the knight line, and also the light cavalry line if they've got access to even or more technologies, realistically. But it just ends up not being the case. Once again, between with better stutter stepping and the ability to actually stack the units up more tightly in tight spaces, it becomes really quite easy to take good fights against cavalry. Conversely, I think they're actually probably a little bit harder to try and take care. Well, not so much harder, but potentially Siege can splash a lot more archers than ever before. It's actually harder to try and hit the archers to begin with because they're easier to micro, but when they aren't microed, or when they are forced into a tight choke because they're trying to maximize, min-max their damage output versus their damage incoming damage against melee, it ends up being really good opportunities for scorpions and mangonels. And so the map here on islands. So our players are eventually going to have to try and push on the land on the other island. For now, they'll just be content to produce some villages, produce some fishing ships, get to the feudal age, and they can look at taking some fights, some engagements here on the water. This central island's sort of not all that important. This one potentially could be, the longer the game goes on, as our players start to really run dry on their own gold. The stone, I guess, is also important for castles late game, but at the same time, you know, you've only got 700 stone there and a tiny amount of wood versus a little bit more wood. Quite a reasonable amount of gold at 4,800, and the relic there as well, so an infinite trickle of gold. It's a bigger island, so you can actually fit a bit more as well. The main focus will probably be to try and win on the water and then try and land on your opponent's island, cut off some of these resources with a forward base and try and push into them if you can. At the same time, you know, Oso's going to have to try and defend this flank of his island where a lot of his peripheral resources are as the game goes on. So players... Well, it looks like... Yeah, Oso's got 3 fishing ships to Lobo's 2, but I think Lobo's slightly up on villages for some reason. Also might have had to interrupt his veal production briefly to actually produce that third fishing ship, perhaps. It's pretty locked up in terms of the economy size here. Which is pretty much a given at this level of play anyway. It's not like anyone's going to make any mistakes this early on. Can you shut your bloody llama up? We're trying to sleep. So also investing in a second dock. Lobo's going to invest in 3 here, actually. Oh, I didn't see that earlier. That might have been where that extra fishing ship was. So it gives him vision, it gives him the ability to queue up 3 ships at once as well. So depending on how long the water engagements go on here, he might actually have to try queue fishing ships. I mean, try queue war galleys and fire galleys. So double bit axe for Lobo, he'll get that little bit of wood gathering speed. Also, there's some fire galleys here, so you can work on these galleys, and Lobo potentially just going to lose that galley for nothing now. Some nice micro here by Oso to slow down Lobo's galley. So we're going to see galley versus fire galley early on here. These little guys having to run for their lives. Fire galleys, I think, are going to be stronger 1-to-1, but obviously they don't have that range that the regular galleys do. So Lobo seems to be slowly creeping ahead in terms of the ship count right now. That's another benefit of this composition, is you can force Oso to have to try and split up these fire galleys. So Lobo would have taken fletching upgrade just to get that little bit of extra damage and range on his galleys as well. Sort of make them actually able to really compete with the fire galleys 1-to-1. So rough for Oso, they're losing a couple of fishing ships. Rough trying for him to take an engagement here against that many galleys being microed by Lobo. But another fire galley getting picked off. So Oso's now up to 3 docks as well. Scout's just chilling there. He's going to get picked off. Not really a big blow to anyone. Losing the scout. So losing a tiny bit of damage. a bit of health on one of his fire galleys. Okay, so losing a Vil there. Not so good for him. It's looking a little bit rough now. But he has managed to start harassing somewhere here on the water, interrupting Lobo's fishing economy momentarily. He manages to save the fishing ship. But also might be able to... Here we go. Harass some of these villagers. Might not be able to get any kills, or he might be able to. Yeah, he does get one, so... Bit of a mistake there by Lobo trying to stick on that berries. He's going to have to forego those 2 farms as well. So his land food eco is going to get slowed down a little bit. Build another 4 walk further in. Improved mill structure. What do these bloody things actually do differently? Immediately collects 10% of food from nearby newly constructed farms. For walk. Wow, that's pretty handy. Every farm is giving Lobo 16 food as soon as he completes it. Of at least the ones around the 4 walks. Man, I'm gonna be a Polish main now. I never realized it was that strong. Okay, so hitting castle. He'll be adding additional town centers, trying to grow that economy. Lobo's own castle a little while away. But early on he's built himself that little lead, I think. It's weird getting to cast an island AoE2 map in a tournament game. Engagement now here by Lobo. Okay, so he's now got 5 ships, so these guys are actually quite a fair bit tankier than the galleys with their castle age upgrade. Do both. Go down. Now Lobo eager to try and mass up as much of his army as possible, because Oce's now going to feel really confident to take a fight even with uphill unit numbers until Lobo can actually get his upgrade to get his war galleys. Give these guys the range they need to actually, and the health they need to actually fight against the fire ships. Another player's really opting to get on the other's land just yet, but here we go. War galley kicking in. So now these guys, with the numbers that they've got, can actually take some good fights, because I mean there's 19 of them up against 10 fire ships here. So getting a handful more. He wants to try and slink some around the island here so he can get the goods around, really work down a lot of the war galleys, because you simultaneously want to surround the war galleys so they can't go anywhere, and so that they're going to lose time trying to retarget stuff that's not inside their minimum range, but at the same time you want to focus down them with, you know, 2 if not 3 fire ships on each war galley that you are attacking. Any one that you're only attacking 1 ship at a time, have that fire ship attack another galley, so you kill it faster. Oh, but that's a nice engagement with these demo ships, so been a bit of a reverse around here, with the demo ships taking out most of the fire ships. So Lobo, things going according to plan, and definitely plans going awry there for Oso. He would have been hoping to again try and get that nice surround with the fire ships on the war galleys and have the time to sort of clean up the demo ships, but really just didn't go his way there. I think he might have lost a couple too many ships early on. And Lobo's had a really impressive navy here. Oso, with that transition on the land to more town centers already though, is up on villager population quite substantially at the moment. 24 lead there at 70 to 46. We've got another town center coming for Lobo, and in the meanwhile he's going to be able to surround most of the island, maybe not all of it, but it'll be tough for Oso to try and regain control of the water and even a lot of the outlying wood on his base. Things like the berries here, some of the houses that he's got on the edges. As much as he's using them now to try and give himself a bit of vision around the island, it's also meaning he's starting to lose them. And Lobo from here can look at just cutting war galleys after this last one or two more that'll, you know, just park on the edges over here. Try and prevent docks. So this is, I guess, sort of what the problem with competitive island maps is, that it's a bit like getting ahead on the land with, you know, being able to contain someone in their base and cut them off from exterior resources, then winning, you know, 3 minutes later because it can't gather anything to spend anything, it can't make anything other than trash units. Except it's pretty much guaranteed to happen once someone gets ahead. It's not a if, it's a when. A lot of the time. So Oso gonna have to try and play really smart with things like monks on the land, because these guys actually do outrange galleys by 1 for the time being, so you can try and convert as many war galleys as possible, adding some castles around, you know, where would otherwise be a good staging ground for Lobo to try and hold on here, and just sort of rely on the fact that Lobo's not parked anything here to cut off this gold mine and cut off any potential dock rebuilding over here. And in some of the other AoEs, it's ridiculous how cheaply you can just ruin someone if you get ahead on an island map. And you know, from there the game basically is decided either by a 1 to win, or the player that was slightly ahead that's now way ahead, just landing on staging ground and killing the opponent, because they've obviously can access this gold a lot more easy. And potentially Oso might not even be able to hold on to this if this goes on a long time, but Lobo snakes some units around, some ships around. So yeah, I guess that's why I don't really like island maps in tournaments. That plus, yeah, it can end in a 1 to win for either player as well. And the sort of game that really didn't need to be decided by a 1 to win. Oso going to be rocketing towards late game, just booming up with 4 town centers here at the moment. Doesn't quite have that insane food eco of Lobo at the moment, whose 4 walks going to mean that every reseeded farm is just going to outright pay 10% straight into the bank. That's broken, man. One of the villages here for Oso, we're going to throw down an outpost. It's not really looking to put any docks down yet. Town center might take a little while to kill. Well, actually, I take it back. He is trying to go for a dock here. In fact, quite a number of them. It's a bit of a risk trying to add more here. I have to wonder if he's best off just trying to sneak it maybe over here again. Or even over here. It would have been expensive losing a couple of vills to get that tower up and to try and force that dock up. Now Oso seems to have recovered. He has boomed up a lot better than Lobo, because he's still up by a number of villages. Lobo's up to 3 town centers here on the land. So Oso's actually still up by a town center and now has a lot more docks than Lobo, but at the same time, Lobo has managed to snatch control of the central island, so that's a lot of gold that he's going to have over his opponent here, and a little bit of wood too. In fact, he's going for the wood first. Well-positioned castle, because it makes it very difficult to actually do anything here. So, Oso, these ships, I think, are not going to be able to get the value that he's looking for. He will eventually be able to clean up all of these war galleys, but they're sitting in behind the castle. Books, a unique unit for the Poles. This is a big navy recovery here from Oso, and he's not afraid to burn through the resources he's got on his main island to try and possibly unseat Lobo here, because bearing in mind he has gone to Imperial, he's got a cannon galleon here, so he can slowly work away at the castle. And I guess the idea of this is just preventing a critical mass of war galleys to try and overwhelm the cannon galleons, because if you can knock Lobo back here, all this gold, and possibly this gold over here, becomes his. And it's Lobo that's looking really starved for gold, because where else will he go once he's mined out over here? Has grabbed that oh, he hasn't actually grabbed that central relic yet. So just making sure there's no potential proxying or anything going on his island. So he's got 2 cannon galleons so far. He's just looking to add more regular galleons to help defend them. I have to wonder if he's best off maybe adding another 2 or 3 cannon galleons just to really take out this castle as quickly as possible here. A lot of galleons here, but again, it's going to take a while to punch through that castle. And Lobo seems to be in limbo for the minute. Oh, I take that back. He's actually landed some O-bucks on the shore here and forced a big wall off here for Oso. It's got a lot of fire galleys now. Start protecting this side, making sure there's no more drop-offs from the transport ships. Big navy now for Lobo. He needs his own siege to be able to try and take out his opponent's castle. Oso now has a trebuchet, so he can start chipping away at the castle from the land. But it's a bit of a costly investment here, I think, and it won't take too long before that goes down. So the O-bucks certainly all being cleaned up there. Now Lobo once again stuck in a turtle shell in defensive mode, while Oso is the one coming forward trying to take out a little bit of production, put a bit of pressure on while he focuses down this castle. I have to wonder if he's best off maybe even trying to use one of the cannon galleons on the villagers while they're repairing, while the other one actually focuses on the castle. Though he's now starting to add more trebs, so he should be able to deal a little bit more damage more quickly through this. He can even try and move those galleons through here perhaps, but then I guess the problem is if he passes through that strait, he might get hit by the castle. Lobo going to try and take the fight with the concave that he's really looking for here. So it's really nice spread across the water there. Fire ships now going in. A little delayed, but they do ultimately come in, and those cannon galleons not quite as useful against them. And not too bad against regular galleons, because at least they mainly stay still, but now a lot of trebs here for Lobo, so he's really, the heat is on. And now it's Oso who's having to try and repair his island castle. Doesn't quite have the number of villagers that Lobo had here. So Oso's going to need to try and win here on the water to take out the trebuchets, I think. But the cannon galleons, they can take these guys out pretty quickly. 2 hits from those. One of those trebs falls now. Oso is really pulling ahead on score at the moment. But Lobo's actually managed to take a slightly bigger economy now. One of those villagers taking a hit from the cannon. Not quite enough to kill it, but I mean, if you try and do that while it's repairing it, you know, you can eventually work your way through all of them. So we've got 4 cannon galleons in the mix here. They should be able to make quick work of this castle if they can sit here. Good number of villagers there to repair it. Still got 4 cannon galleons up. Lobo's not quite able to snipe them. Just the regular attack ships for Oso are just filling the map here. Oso, ooh, he is going to get the castle now. And bearing in mind, Lobo's not harassing him at all at the moment. But our players are going to eventually run out of wood here. Lobo's actually doing what he can to get this wood on the lower side first, because he knows it's probably safer holding onto the wood up here on the top side. So if he grabs all this lower side wood, ooh, and he probably needed to try and castle up over here at some stage, because now he's going to lose out on that gold. So he's going to be able to deny that and start getting some trebs on the land. Start getting some land production here. Oh, but the villagers, I'm going to throw up a quick castle. In fact, this should finish up a lot faster because it's got a lot more villagers on it. So Lobo getting a little bit desperate. These villagers over here under a lot of threat, but maybe he's going to have to pull back momentarily. Safety of the castle. Here we go. Lobo's now managed to deny the castle by the looks of things, but only momentarily. There's a lot of villagers there for Oso. He should be able to finish this castle. It'll cost him some villagers, but I think it's a sacrifice he's willing to make here. Really keep the pressure up, because Lobo right now, it's a good number of ships there, but still outnumbered on the water. Ah, there we go. So Oso going to use his 5 cannon ships that he's now got. Be able to take out the castle pretty quickly now. 7 now. He's continuing to add more of those because he knows that eventually Lobo's not going to be able to repair through the damage that they're dealing to all these buildings. Villagers desperately racing over to try and prevent this from happening, but Oso going to be able to steal some gold off his opponent, which is going to mean more of these warships, more of the expensive units. So Lobo is barely holding on to that island now. Yeah, he's having to add muscle to protect as monastery's got a couple of relics in there. Our players, 2 relics apiece at the moment. No one controlling that central relic. They've both managed to grab the relics on their own islands, which is probably be expected in island maps. There is that tiny gold trickle. But it won't really be enough to sustain continual warship production out of more than maybe 1 dot. So don't get your hopes up in the ultra late game. You're eventually going to run out of everything except for your relic gold. Well, in 1v1 anyway. In 2v2 when team games, it's a little bit different because you've got your market gold generation, which then you can buy wood with that to make farms, and then, you know, lo and behold, you've got every resource infinite. A couple of those explosive ships going down, and GG! Lobo is out of the game. Okay, so he takes their game number 1, I believe it was.